So let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever been walking down a super busy street, totally in your own world, and someone asks you for change? If you're being honest, you probably do what most of us do. You keep your eyes forward, you pretend you didn't hear them, and you just keep walking, right? It's kind of the unspoken rule of being in a big city. Well, today we're going back to Manhattan in September of 1986. And we're going to talk about a woman named Laura Schroff, who was the definition of a busy, successful New Yorker. She was a top advertising executive. Her calendar was completely jammed, and she was always running to the next big meeting. She was a woman on a mission, always moving fast. But on this one chilly afternoon, as she's rushing past a crowded corner on 56th Street, a tiny voice completely stops her in her tracks. The voice says, "Excuse me, lady, do you have any spare change? I'm hungry." Laura stops and turns around, and standing there on the pavement is an 11-year-old kid named Maurice Mazyck. He's wearing beat-up sneakers, clothes that are really way too small for him, and honestly, he just looks completely exhausted. Now, Maurice's life was incredibly tough. He was living in a nearby welfare hotel. His family was dealing with severe addiction and poverty. Asking for money on the street wasn't some optional chore. It was literally how he fed himself. Initially, Laura does what 99% of us would do. She says, "Sorry, no," and she walks right past him. But here's where the story takes a turn. After walking about a half a block, Laura feels this literal tug in her chest. It's this weird, unshakable gut feeling that says, "Go back." So she actually stops. She turns around, walks back to the kid and says, "Look, I'm not going to give you cash, but if you're actually hungry, let's go across the street to McDonald's and get some lunch." Maurice is a little skeptical, but he's starving, so he says, "Okay." They go sit down in a noisy plastic booth, and while Maurice is eating his burgers and fries, Laura does something even cooler than buying the food. She just listens to him. She doesn't lecture him or treat him like a charity project. She just hangs out with him like a normal human being. Honestly, that could have been the end of the story, right? A nice random act of kindness, check it off the list, feel good about it, and move on with your day. But as they're walking out of the restaurant, if you want to call it a restaurant, Laura looks at this little kid and says, "Do you get hungry often?" And Maurice nods his head quietly. Right then and there, Laura makes this totally spontaneous promise. She says, "I'll tell you what, Maurice, meet me at this exact corner next Monday, and I'll buy you lunch again." Sure enough, next Monday rolls around, Laura walks to 56th Street, and there's Maurice, just standing on the corner waiting for her. So this becomes their routine for the next few weeks, then the next few months, and eventually the next few years, every single Monday. This busy ad executive and this homeless 11-year-old kid meet up on 56th Street. Over fast food, they become actual, genuine best friends. Laura quickly realized Maurice needed way more than just food. He needed someone to actually care if he got up in the morning. So she started inviting him over on the weekends. She taught him how to set a table, helped him with his homework, bought him some new clothes that actually fit him, and took him to his very first baseball game. But it wasn't just Laura helping Maurice. Laura was totally caught up in the corporate rat race, and she later said that Maurice became her anchor. He completely changed her perspective on what actually matters in life. Then came this one moment that completely defines this whole story. One Sunday night, Maurice is at Laura's house, and she's in her kitchen packing a simple brown paper lunch bag for Maurice to take to school the next day. Just normal stuff. Sandwiches, snacks, a juice box maybe. Maurice is watching her from across the room, and his eyes are glued to the bag. He walks over and says something that absolutely broke Laura's heart. He says, "Laura, when you give me lunch in a brown paper bag, it makes me feel like I'm important." Laura was confused, so she asked him what he meant by that. Maurice looked up at her and said, "When I go to school with no lunch, everybody knows I'm poor. But when I walk down the hallway holding a brown paper bag, it means someone cares about me. It means I matter." Wow. When I first read about this story, it almost choked me up. A tiny 5-cent paper bag was a symbol of dignity for a kid who had spent his whole life feeling completely invisible to the world around him. It wasn't about the food inside the bag. It was about the love that packed it. Their weekly routine kept going all through Maurice's childhood. Laura stayed right by his side through his messy teenage years and into early adulthood, being the steady rock he never had growing up. Fast forward a few decades, Laura's now celebrating her 50th birthday party, and the room is packed with all her fancy corporate people. Maurice stands up to give a toast. He's a grown man now. He's got a great career, beautiful home, and a family of his own. He looks at Laura with tears in his eyes and says, "When I was only 11 years old, I was starving on a street corner, and the world just walked by me. But Laura stopped. She didn't just save my life. She changed the whole destiny of my future family. She became my angel. Because Laura chose to turn around that day, the cycle of poverty in Maurice's family was totally broken. Today, his kids grow up in a safe, loving, stable home, and decades later, Laura and Maurice, they're still best friends. They still sit around the dinner table all the time as a family. I really wanted to tell this story because we all think that to truly help someone, we have to do something massive or write a big check or solve all the problems in the world all at once. But Laura and Maurice proved that changing a life is actually very simple. It starts with a conversation in a McDonald's booth. It lives inside a sandwich packed in a brown paper bag. True kindness isn't about having extra money or extra time. It's just about choosing to stop, turn around, and see the person standing right in front of you. I really hope these episodes are making you feel more positive and hopeful. My name's Scott, and thanks so much for listening today. Please subscribe to catch all new episodes every Tuesday and share with someone you think might need a boost. I'm having so much fun creating these and so grateful for every listen I get. So this story reminded me of a 6th grade field trip to Faneuil Hall in Boston that I was on. A classmate of mine and close friend named Chris walked by a man asking for money. Chris stopped and said to him, "I'm not giving you money for cigarettes or alcohol." The stranger said, "I just want to get something to eat." We happened to be right next to a Subway sandwich shop. Chris said, "Let's go in together. You order a meal and I'll pay for it. I just want to make sure my money is going to getting you food." I was just in awe. Chris used his own spending money to help out a total stranger, which left him with only a few bucks, so he wouldn't even be able to buy any souvenirs on our trip. And what did I do? I bought a Pearl Jam CD. That was decades ago, but I'll never forget that day. All right. With our main story finished, we jump right into tips and strategies segment of the show. I like to try to tie it in with the main story, but today I didn't do that. But in a roundabout way, by mentioning the Pearl Jam CD, here's the tie-in with music. This is a general feel-good strategy that you can have ready to go when something's got you down. Let's call it the Briefly Good playlist. Open up Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever you listen, and you're going to create 3 songs. Make a playlist of songs that make you feel great. It's science, actually, that a feel-good playlist helps you by serving as a practical tool to instantly shift your mindset, manage your emotional state, and combat daily negativity, what we're trying to do here. When you curate a specific set of high-energy, positive tracks, it acts as a mental reset button in several distinct ways. The first one is a direct biological rewiring. It floods your system with joy. Hitting play on music you love triggers an immediate release of dopamine and serotonin. These are the feel-good, reward, pleasure chemicals your brain releases. It also flushes out stress. Upbeat rhythms physically force your cortisol levels to drop. Those are your stress hormones. They lower your heart rate and eases tension. It can also build a positivity shield. It gives you a reliable way to block out external chaos, news fatigue, a bad mood, allowing you to recenter and reclaim your focus. It also keeps your outlook hopeful. Regularly engaging with an uplifting soundtrack supports a mindset focused on well-being, keeping you energized to push back against the negativity. So I want to hear what your playlist is. Let me know what your 3 songs are, the artist and the title. And if I'm asking you for yours, it's only fair for me to give you my playlist. So after almost no thought, right off the top of my head, these 3 come to mind. Give yourself a listen if you aren't familiar. The first one, End of the Line by the Traveling Wilburys. The second one, Stay Up Late by Talking Heads. And the last one might surprise you, unless you know me personally. It's Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus. Seriously, I love that song. Keep your playlist ready and use it when necessary. And for an advanced challenge, make one for someone close to you with uplifting songs that remind you of them or have their favorite artists and songs included. And just like that, this week's episode is coming to a close with our Briefly Good quote of the week. This one ties right in with our strategy. Music is a weapon in the war against unhappiness. Jason Mraz. Put your earbuds in, get out there and do something good, even if it's brief.